Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question that may sting for just a moment. Are you his priority or are you just his option? Because the truth is, too many women waste their precious energy on men who breadcrumb them with just enough attention to keep them hanging on, but never enough to truly value them. If you've ever found yourself waiting for his texts, rearranging your life just to see him, or feeling uncertain about where you stand, then you may already know the answer. And today I'm going to expose the 9 undeniable signs that a man sees you as nothing more than an option, so you can recognize them, reclaim your power, and walk away with your dignity intact before another second of your worth is wasted. And when a man truly values you, his actions speak louder than his words. But when he only sees you as an option, his behavior leaves clues everywhere. The danger is that so many women ignore these red flags because of the hope that things will change, or because they believe that if they just give more, prove more, or wait a little longer, he will finally wake up and see their worth. The truth is, the moment you recognize that you are being treated as a backup, as someone he keeps on the sidelines for convenience, you must walk away immediately. This isn't about teaching him a lesson. It's about honoring yourself enough not to settle for crumbs when you deserve the whole meal. And the first sign is inconsistency. When he's hot one day and cold the next, when he showers you with attention for a moment and then disappears without explanation, he's showing you that you are not a priority. A man who truly sees your value doesn't play this game. He makes an effort to be consistent, to build trust, to create stability. If you're left guessing how he feels about you from one day to the next, you're not in his heart, you're just in his convenience. And the second sign is that you're always the one initiating. You're the one who calls, you're the one who texts, you're the one who tries to make plans. Meanwhile, he responds, but rarely initiates. This is a subtle but powerful way of keeping you as an option. He's not putting in effort, he's simply reacting when you hand him attention. If you removed your energy tomorrow, the connection would vanish, and that tells you everything you need to know. Someone who truly wants you doesn't just wait for you to reach out. They make the effort themselves. And the third sign is that he avoids defining the relationship. Whenever you bring up commitment, exclusivity, or even clarity about where things are headed, he dodges the conversation. He might say things like, "Let's not put labels on it," or "I'm just going with the flow." What that really means is, "I don't see you as the one, but I like keeping you around until I find who I really want." This is brutal to hear. But the honesty lies in his actions, not in the excuses he gives. If he wanted you fully, he wouldn't hesitate to claim you fully. And the fourth sign is that he only shows up when it's convenient for him. Maybe he texts you late at night when he's bored, or he makes plans only when his schedule is empty. But he's nowhere to be found when you actually need him. That's not partnership, that's selfishness disguised as casual affection. A man who sees you as valuable will rearrange his life to include you. He will make sacrifices. He will show up even when it's not convenient. And he will prove with his actions that you matter. And the fifth sign is that you feel drained instead of uplifted after interacting with him. Every encounter with someone who values you should leave you feeling more confident, more secure, more seen. But when you are just an option, you walk away feeling insecure, anxious, or confused. Pay attention to the emotional toll. It's not a coincidence. Your body and your heart are signaling that you are giving your energy to someone who isn't reciprocating. And the sixth sign is that he doesn't integrate you into his life. You haven't met his family, his close friends, or even his colleagues. You exist in a private bubble separate from the rest of his world. That's not because he's private. It's because he doesn't see you as permanent. A man who truly values you wants to show you off, wants to introduce you to the people who matter most to him, and wants you to feel woven into his life. If you're hidden away, you're being kept as an option. And the seventh sign is that he prioritizes others over you constantly. Maybe he cancels plans with you last minute, but never does that with his friends. Maybe he makes time for his hobbies, his career, his buddies, but always tells you he's too busy when you ask for quality time. You are never too busy for someone who matters to you. The harsh truth is, if he really wanted to be there, he would be. Excuses are simply ways of avoiding the reality that you're not his priority. And the eighth sign is that your needs are dismissed or minimized. When you express your feelings, he calls you too emotional, too needy, or makes you feel guilty for wanting more. This is a classic tactic of someone who doesn't want to give more, but also doesn't want to lose the convenience of having you around. The right person won't shame you for having standards. They will rise to meet them. If he makes you feel wrong for asking for what you deserve, it's because he knows he has no intention of giving it. And the ninth sign is that deep down, you already know. Your intuition whispers it to you when you're alone. You feel the gnawing doubt in your gut, the unease that something isn't right. We often silence that voice because we don't want it to be true, but your intuition is rarely wrong. If you have to constantly wonder where you stand, if you feel like you're fighting for scraps of his attention, then you are not his priority, you are his option. And walking away isn't easy. It requires courage, self-respect, and the willingness to sit with the discomfort of letting go. But the longer you stay where you're not valued, the more you delay the person who will value you. Every day you spend with someone who treats you as an option is a day you steal from yourself. A day you could be investing in your own growth, your own joy, and eventually in a relationship that elevates you rather than diminishes you. And love is not about begging for attention or waiting to be chosen. Love is about mutual effort, respect, and clarity. If he isn't giving you those things, then your job is not to convince him. It's to walk away with your dignity intact. Because the moment you refuse to be an option, you step into the life where you are the priority, not just for someone else, but for yourself first. And here's the truth. When you walk away from someone who only ever saw you as an option, you send the most powerful message you could ever deliver, not to him, but to yourself. You declare that you will not waste your energy in places where it isn't valued. You affirm that your time, your love, and your heart are treasures too rare to be mishandled. And the strength you show in choosing yourself becomes the very foundation for the love you will attract in the future. And because here's what happens when you stay, you train yourself to accept less than you deserve. You teach your mind and heart to normalize inconsistency, neglect, and emotional starvation. The longer you remain in that dynamic, the more you weaken your own standards. And standards matter. Standards are what protect you from giving yourself away to the wrong people. Standards are what preserve your dignity when you're tempted to hold on to someone who's already let go of you emotionally. But when you walk away, you rewrite that story. You take the power back. Suddenly, you're no longer the person waiting for his attention, hoping for his scraps of effort, analyzing every message and every silence. You become the person who is fully centered in self-respect. You become the woman who knows her worth so deeply that anyone who doesn't rise to meet it automatically eliminates himself. That's the power of self-respect. It filters people without you having to lift a finger. And think about how much time and energy you lose when you're caught in the cycle of being someone's option. You spend hours replaying conversations in your head, days wondering why he hasn't texted, nights feeling a hollow ache in your chest. That is emotional energy that could have been invested in your own growth, in friendships that nourish you, in goals that excite you, in building a life so rich and fulfilling that the right man will want to fight to be a part of it. Staying where you're undervalued doesn't just hurt you in the moment, it steals your future. And it's not just about romance. When you tolerate being an option, you unconsciously set the tone for every area of your life. You begin to compromise at work, accepting less than your worth. You begin to compromise with friends, allowing one-sided relationships to drain you. You begin to compromise with yourself, silencing your dreams because you've grown used to settling. But when you finally draw the line and say no more, you break that cycle in every direction. You reclaim your standards, and everything in your life begins to rise to meet them. And let's take a closer look at why walking away is so powerful. A man who keeps you as an option often believes that you will never leave. He thinks your loyalty is guaranteed. He's confident that no matter how little he invests, you'll still be there when he wants you. When you prove him wrong by walking away, you shatter that illusion. Suddenly, he sees that his casual treatment of you has consequences. But here's the key. It's not about whether he chases you after that. It's about you refusing to live in a state of being undervalued. His reaction is irrelevant. Your decision is everything. And walking away isn't about bitterness. It's not about revenge. It's not about trying to make him jealous or trying to manipulate him into realizing what he's lost. Walking away is an act of love for yourself. It's saying, I deserve more. I deserve effort. I deserve consistency. I deserve to be chosen without hesitation. It's about raising the standard for the love you will accept. And when you live at that level, you attract people who meet you there. And now let's talk about the internal conflict that makes this so hard. For many women, the hardest part of walking away is not the loss of the man himself. It's the loss of the fantasy of who he could have been, the fantasy of the relationship you wanted him to give you, the fantasy of the potential you saw in him. And letting go of a fantasy is painful because fantasies are often more intoxicating than reality. But ask yourself, do you want to keep investing in a fantasy that keeps breaking your heart, or do you want a reality that fills it? And you see, love is not built on potential. It's built on consistent action. And if a man isn't showing up now, no amount of waiting will suddenly transform him into the man you deserve. Time doesn't magically create commitment. If anything, time only deepens the pattern. That's why you cannot afford to wait for someone to come around. If he's showing you that you're just an option today, you must believe him. Because believing his actions protects you from wasting years of your life on someone who was never going to step up. And then here's something else. When you walk away, you not only protect yourself, you inspire yourself. You give yourself proof that you are strong enough to leave behind what doesn't serve you. That proof becomes fuel. Every time you doubt your worth in the future, you can look back and remember, I had the strength to walk away before. I chose myself then, and I can choose myself again. That's how self-trust is built, through choices that align with your dignity. And walking away also allows you to heal. Because while you remain in the orbit of someone who sees you as an option, you can never truly heal. You're constantly reopening the wound, waiting for a different outcome, hoping for a different treatment. Healing begins the moment you remove yourself from that cycle. It begins when you create space for peace instead of chaos, clarity instead of confusion, love instead of longing. And that healing is what prepares you for the right person, the one who won't just see you, but who will cherish you. And now imagine this. Imagine a life where you only allow people who choose you fully. Imagine waking up every day knowing that you don't have to beg for love, you don't have to prove yourself, you don't have to question your place. Imagine the freedom of giving your heart to someone who is already certain of you. That's not a dream. It's what becomes possible the moment you refuse to settle. The life you crave begins the second you stop accepting less than what you know you deserve. And so ask yourself, what story are you writing with your choices right now? Are you writing the story of a woman who waits, who hopes, who settles, who compromises her value just to keep someone who doesn't see it? Or are you writing the story of a woman who knows her worth so deeply that she refuses to waste it on anyone who doesn't? The choice is always yours, and the story you choose will determine not only your relationships, but your entire life. And this isn't about him. It never was. It's about you, your standards, your self-respect, your future. The moment you decide that you will no longer be an optio. And in anyone's life is the moment you step into your true power. That decision will change the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you show up in the world. And when you operate from that place, the right people will recognize it instantly. They'll see your worth without you having to prove it. And they'll step up without hesitation. And because the love you deserve is not something you have to chase, it's not something you have to beg for, it's not something you have to constantly question. The love you deserve is steady, intentional, clear, and undeniable. And it will never come from someone who only ever saw you as an option. It will come when you walk away from everything that isn't that. And it will come because you had the courage to choose yourself first. And then once you choose yourself first, something remarkable happens. Your entire perspective on love shifts. You stop asking, why doesn't he want me? And start asking, why would I even want someone who can't see me? That subtle change is everything. It removes the desperation and the need for validation from people who aren't capable of giving it. Instead of viewing his lack of commitment as a reflection of your worth, you begin to see it as a reflection of his limitations. And suddenly, the weight of rejection disappears because you realize that you were never the problem. And when you stop being available for people who don't step up, you begin to notice the way you used to settle. You remember the nights you stayed awake replaying his half-hearted texts, the weekends you waited for him to make time, the excuses you accepted just to keep him around. And then you compare it to the peace you feel now, peace that comes not from being chosen by him, but from finally choosing yourself. That contrast is so powerful, it makes you wonder why you ever tolerated being an option in the first place. And let's talk about tolerance. Every time you tolerate being treated as less, you reinforce a dangerous belief that love has to be earned by overgiving, overwaiting, overcompromising. But real love doesn't work like that. Real love isn't about enduring neglect or proving yourself through patience. Real love is mutual. Real love is a two-way investment. Real love is someone showing up for you with the same energy, the same intention, and the same clarity you bring to the table. Anything less is not love. It's attachment dressed up as love. And attachment can be powerful. It convinces you to hold on to someone long after they've shown you they're not willing to hold on to you. It convinces you that history equals destiny, that because you've invested so much already, you have to keep investing. But here's the truth. Time spent is not a reason to keep spending more time. A bad investment doesn't become good just because you put more into it. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is cut your losses and protect what you still have left, your heart, your energy, your future. And when you walk away, you may feel grief. You may feel like a piece of you is missing. That's normal because you're detaching from a habit as much as from a person. But grief is temporary. Regret, on the other hand, can last forever. And regret is what you will feel if you look back years from now and realize you wasted precious time waiting for someone who never intended to give you more. That's why courage now prevents heartbreak later. And walking away also creates clarity. When you're entangled with someone who treats you like an option, your vision becomes clouded. You can't see the bigger picture because you're too busy focusing on his mixed signals. But once you step out, the fog lifts. You start to see the patterns clearly. You see that his inconsistency wasn't complicated. It was simply disinterest dressed up as Mr. You see that his excuses weren't nuanced. They were just avoidance. And you see that your worth was never in question. It was your boundaries that needed to be stronger. And then comes the beautiful part. As your clarity sharpens, your standards rise. You no longer get excited by crumbs because you know what a full meal feels like. You no longer confuse attention with affection because you've experienced what genuine care looks like. You no longer chase someone who runs because you've realized that real love meets you in the middle. That transformation is priceless. It's what sets you free, not just from him, but from every version of him that might appear in the future. And you will start to notice how many people in the world are willing to give you the consistency you were begging for from the wrong person. You'll notice how many opportunities you have to experience love that feels easy, not exhausting. But none of that can happen while you're stuck giving your energy to someone who sees you as replaceable. You cannot open the door to the right person while keeping the wrong one seated at your table. Walking away isn't just about leaving, it's about making room. And let's be honest, being seen as just an option is one of the most damaging experiences to your self-esteem if you allow it to continue. It chips away at your confidence. It makes you question your value. It tricks you into believing that maybe you're asking for too much. But deep down, you know you're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person. With the right person, your needs won't feel like demands. They'll feel like opportunities for him to love you better. That's how you know you've found someone who sees you as a priority. And until that happens, your job is not to settle. Your job is to stay aligned with the version of yourself that refuses to compromise on respect. Because the respect you demand from others always begins with the respect you show yourself. If you keep allowing someone to string you along, you're signaling to yourself that this is all you deserve. But the moment you step away, you send a new signal that you are worth more and that you're willing to walk alone rather than walk with someone who diminishes you. And then here's another truth. People sense it when you carry yourself this way. When you no longer tolerate being an option, your energy changes. You radiate certainty, self-worth, and presence. You no longer chase because you understand that chasing keeps you stuck in the wrong story. Instead, you attract partners who recognize your strength, who respect your boundaries, and who are drawn to the confidence that comes from self-respect. And that attraction is not based on games, it's based on authenticity. But authenticity requires courage. It requires you to stop pretending you're okay with less. It requires you to stop making excuses for why he can't give you more. It requires you to admit that you deserve better and to act on that truth even when it scares you. That's what walking away is, an act of authentic courage. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. And one day you'll look back and realize that the man who once made you feel like an option was actually your greatest teacher. He showed you what happens when you ignore red flags. He showed you how painful it is to stay too long. He showed you the cost of settling. And because of that lesson, you'll never again let anyone treat you as less than you are. Sometimes the wrong man is the one who awakens you to the truth of your worth. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. And so don't fear the walk away. Fear staying where you are not chosen. Fear losing yourself piece by piece while waiting for someone else to finally see you. Fear the years you'll never get back if you keep settling for someone's indecision, because the cost of staying is far greater than the temporary discomfort of leaving. One robs you of your future, the other restores it. And the moment you step into that awareness, you realize that being seen as just an option was never about you. It was always about his inability to recognize your worth. But your worth doesn't diminish just because someone else can't see it. A diamond doesn't stop being a diamond just because someone mistakes it for glass. And your value doesn't change because one man failed to recognize it. What matters is that you see it, that you honor it, and that you refuse to hand it over to someone who can't. And when you finally see your own worth as unshakable, you stop negotiating with people who refuse to rise to meet it. You stop bargaining for half effort. You stop making peace with silence when you deserve communication. You stop giving passes to behavior that clearly shows disinterest. It's not that you become harsh or closed off. It's that you become clear. Clarity is one of the most attractive things a person can embody because clarity removes confusion, removes drama, and sets a powerful boundary. This is what I deserve, and if you can't give it, then this is not my story. And what clarity does is liberate you from the cycle of waiting for a call, waiting for a commitment, waiting for him to finally step into the role you've been auditioning him for in your life. When you're no longer willing to be an option, you stop waiting, you move, you create, you love yourself so fiercely that you refuse to put your life on hold for someone who doesn't see you clearly. And that's where your power multiplies, because you're no longer trapped in his inconsistency. You're fueled by your own momentum. And think about the way the energy shifts when you stop being available to someone who only half shows up. Instead of pouring hours into wondering about him, you pour hours into yourself, into your work, your passions, your friendships, your dreams. You begin to glow differently because your energy is no longer scattered in doubt. It's focused, it's grounded, and that glow draws people to you, not because you're playing games, but because you've finally centered yourself as the prize instead of waiting for someone else to validate you. And this is where so many people get stuck. They confuse attention with intention. Just because a man gives you attention doesn't mean he has real intention with you. Attention can be fleeting, shallow, self-serving. Intention, on the other hand, is consistent, purposeful, forward-moving. Attention keeps you guessing. Intention makes things clear. If you've been surviving on attention, you've been living on crumbs. But once you demand intention, you won't settle for anything less than a full commitment. And that is when you stop being an option and start being a priority. But here's the secret. No one else can crown you as a priority until you do it for yourself first. Because if you don't see yourself that way, you'll always interpret poor treatment as better than nothing. You'll keep mistaking mixed signals for love. You'll keep justifying why someday is enough, even though it leaves you empty in the present. When you declare to yourself that you are the priority, your entire standard of living rises. You're not arrogant, you're aligned, you're not needy, you're clear. And that clarity saves you years of heartbreak. And when you stop entertaining men who see you as an option, you create space for the one who will see you as a necessity, not because he can't live without you, but because he chooses not to. That's the difference. Someone who sees you as an option doesn't mind if you slip away, because he never truly invested in you. Boo is someone who sees you as essential to his life. Make sure you know it. He doesn't leave it to chance. He doesn't leave you guessing. He doesn't risk losing you through neglect. He prioritizes you because he values you. That's the love you're holding out for. And then yes, there will be moments of loneliness in between. That's often what keeps people trapped in situations where they're undervalued. They're afraid of the quiet after walking away. But let me tell you, the quiet of being alone is far less painful than the chaos of being with someone who treats you like a placeholder. One is temporary discomfort, the other is a constant wound. The quiet of being alone is actually healing. It gives you space to breathe, to reflect, to rebuild your strength. And in that stillness, you begin to reconnect with yourself in ways you had forgotten. And that reconnection is vital, because when you've been someone's option, you lose little pieces of yourself along the way. You dull your edges to avoid conflict. You silence your needs so you don't scare him off. You shrink your dreams so you don't seem too much. And eventually you forget the fullness of who you are. Walking away allows you to gather those pieces again. It allows you to remember that you are not too much. You were just with someone who gave too little. And once you reclaim those pieces, your standards change, not just in relationships, but everywhere. You won't tolerate friendships that drain you. You won't stay in jobs that undervalue you. You won't allow yourself to shrink for anyone. Because once you know your worth, it's impossible to unknow it. And that's why walking away is not just about leaving a man, it's about stepping into a whole new version of your life. And now consider the ripple effect this has on the people around you. When you demand respect in your love life, you model it for others. You inspire friends who have been settling to raise their own standards. You show your children, if you have them, what it looks like to value yourself. You demonstrate to the world that your dignity is non-negotiable, and that influence can change lives, not just yours, but the lives of those who watch you silently and gather courage from your example. And then here's something powerful. Walking away from being an option doesn't make you hard, it makes you wise. It doesn't close your heart, it sharpens your vision. You're still open to love, but now you see more clearly who deserves access to you. You no longer confuse charm for character, effort for consistency, or lust for love. You look deeper. You listen not just to words, but to patterns. And those patterns tell you everything you need to know about whether someone sees you as the main priority or as a convenient backup plan. And when you start to live with that wisdom, life feels different. Love no longer feels like a battle, like a puzzle, like a test. You're always failing. It feels simple. It feels mutual. It feels peaceful. And that's how it's supposed to feel. Love is not supposed to make you anxious, insecure, or invisible. Love is supposed to bring out your best, not bury it. If what you're in doesn't feel like that, it's not love. It's compromise. And compromise on this level is too expensive because it costs you yourself. And the irony is that when you walk away from someone who saw you as an option, it often shocks them. They didn't expect you to actually leave because they were so used to you staying no matter how little they gave. And in that moment, some men might suddenly realize what they lost. But remember, it's not your job to stick around long enough for them to figure it out. You are not responsible for teaching someone to value what they should have valued from the start. Your responsibility is to yourself, your growth, your joy, your future. And so if you find yourself caught in that place where you're wondering whether you're an option O, you are a priority. Pay attention to the evidence, not the excuses, not the words, not the maybes or the somedays. Look at the actions, look at the consistency, look at how you feel in your quiet moments. Because deep down, you already know. You always know. And when the truth presents itself, the bravest thing you can do is honor it. And And when you honor it, when you finally walk away, you're not just ending something, you're beginning something far greater. You're beginning the journey back to yourself, back to the version of you who will never again allow anyone to treat her as an option. And that journey, though it may start with heartbreak, ends with freedom. It ends with strength, and it ends with a love that is far more powerful than anything you could have imagined while you were busy waiting for someone who never deserved you in the first place.